All right, so it looks like we're good and we're streaming, so I think everything's set. We'll start off with um, number one, which is new business. 1.1, September probations. We just need to approve those probations. So if everybody's had a chance to look at those, we'll need a motion to go ahead and approve those probations.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by, I believe, was that Robert?
Don Steiner.
Sorry, Don. And then the second was?
Brett.
Brett. Any further discussion on that list? Seeing none, we'll move towards a vote. All those in favor, if you could just give a thumbs up. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Be a thumbs down. Looks like we are good to approve. 1.1, September probations. Moving on to 1.2, Fall Sports Championship site approval. That is item 1.2 in your packets. Rhonda or any assistant commissioners, anything we need to know there?
The ones currently on your list are either approved, finalized for state championships for this fall and even moving forward. We tried to make sure that we didn't put any TBDs on here, but I think we're pretty good through the rest of the fall championships. I think Jen just inked the World Arena. I was hoping she would be on so that we can approve that site, but we also have an October board meeting. So if we need to add it and finalize it in October for Spirit, but those are all the ones that we currently have on the books and ready to move forward with contracts and finalizations, if not already finalized.
Okay, we need a motion to go ahead and approve the Fall Sports Championship sites.
Motion to approve.
That was Mr. Flanagan was the motion.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Frammel. Any further discussion on this?
Luke, may I just add, because this came from Ernie when he was putting in his vote, that he wants to make sure that we continue to explore geographical locations across the state, whether that be northern, even mountainous areas for some of our state championships. And I think it's important that everyone knows that that is how the administrators begin. It hasn't always been an issue because we've always been able to go into the Coliseum, right, with a multi-year contract. And so it has been different for the last couple of years, but I can say on behalf of members of our staff, they have looked, they are having meetings in the north, they're having them in the south, they're having them in the metro area. They're looking at site availability. They're also looking at financial guarantees for us to be able to walk in the door, especially when we had limited capacity and some other challenges last year. So please know it's absolutely on their radar to look at diverse sites as we move forward with the doors open since the Coliseum has been shut. So I'll leave it at that.
Any other further discussion?
I just kind of have a question. Rhonda, do you guys have contingency plans in case we run into capacity issues or other COVID-related issues? I don't know that we need to know those, just that you guys have plan Bs or Cs or Ds or whatever that you're working on as well.
I would have to say that less this year than last year because of the way the decision making was going from whether that be CDPHE or local health departments. But right now we're just seeing not potentially any types of shutdown. So we're in, I guess the contingency plan is staying in close communication with the local health departments, right? And right now it doesn't look like we're looking at numbers. We might be looking at some restrictions around mask or something like that. But I right now I'm not hearing, and I was on a meeting with many of them last week, and it was more about what mitigation strategies for being able to have full capacities in these events. So I don't want to say, yes, we have a contingency plan for if they tell us we can only have 40% in a building, we're going to move to another place, because we haven't got there yet. We're just trying to look at staying in there. And currently they're telling us we can have full capacity, but there may be some mask or some other types of strategies that we'd have to put in place.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yes.
So Rhonda, is it safe to say, and I hate to play the what if game, but is it safe to say that if something did go down and they were going to limit capacity, not only would CHSA would look for somewhere else, but really we should look for somewhere else? Is that fair to say?
That is 100% fair to say. No different than last year when we were opened up at the end of season C for volleyball, right? The restrictions were more open, and we had already contracted with the facility in the north because we could go there, because we couldn't fill the facility anyway because of the limitations. As soon as they opened the door, we started looking for a place where we could expand our spectator opportunities and all of those things. So that is fair to say, Robert, if we were given some type of restriction and we had enough time, we absolutely want to maximize and leverage seating capacity. So we probably would look somewhere else.
Thank you.
Rhonda, can I ask, it does seem like this is pretty diverse. What is Ernie being, I mean, I know you can't speak for him, but when he says mountainous, does he want something like in Glenwood Springs? Does he want something in Grand Junction?
I think he wanted just the assurance that we weren't no one felt like they had the guarantee on a CHSA state tournament, and that we would explore different geographical location. So let's just say if Grand Junction, they have a really nice baseball facility, right? Will we look at taking 1A and 2A there? And then even for football opportunities, are we always going to try to stay at Pueblo, or should we be looking at CSU, or should we be looking at CU? So I think he just wanted to make sure that we were not just walking into one place and we thought that those people were our number one go-tos, and that we were looking around and having conversations and negotiating different types of options for each one of our events. And so I wanted to just, because he had asked me, I wanted to share that with the board to let you know what my response was to him is absolutely. We're going to look at all those factors and then decide which is the best way to promote the high school experience, for sure.
I guess I look at it and it seems more diverse than it has been. There's a lot more in Colorado Springs. There's a lot in Pueblo. It's not Denver focused. It's my opinion.
Agreed.
Any further discussion there? Okay, we appreciate, and I can speak from my point of view. I just appreciate all the work. I know it's not easy for the assistant commissioners to be able to secure these places, and there's so many different logistical issues that go into making sure that we have spots. So to be able to have this list and get things rolling and see these championship sites, I appreciate all the work that everybody put into this. We can go ahead and move to a vote for this. All those in favor, if you want to give a thumbs up. Anyone opposed, feel free to speak if you need to also. Thumbs down. Okay, not seeing any. We'll move to approve Fall Sports Championship sites. Item 1.2. Moving on, 1.3, appeal committee approval. That's also in your packet. The list of people that have been nominated. Have they been nominated, Rhonda, or is that?
Right. Yes, the list consists of retired superintendents, principals, district athletic directors, as well as lay people that have worked within the athletic field. And so it really it's a list that has grown over the course of the years, that it became a little bit bigger last year. We had many retirees, but the role of the board is just to approve this list. It allows Kathy and I to be able to select from this list to make sure that we don't have conflicts of interest or city conflicts in terms of our parents or schools that would put in an appeal. So the bylaw just basically says that you've seen this list. I did want you to see it. It's very representative of geography, diversity, not only gender diversity, but also racial and ethnicity, which is important on a lot of our appeals for that person to come on and see someone that they feel represents them. So just wanted to share this list with you, and then per bylaw, you need to approve it. So
Rhonda, when there is an appeal, so this entire group hears the appeal?
no, you select 3.
Okay, thank you.
You select 3 from the group.
Okay. We need a motion to go ahead and approve item 1.3 and a second.
So moved. Alfie.
Alfie with motion.
Second.
Second, Mr. Flanagan.
Yeah, you can call me Jim Luke if you want.
Second, Jim. Any further discussion on the list? Seeing none, we'll move to approve. All those in favor? Thumbs up. Anyone opposed? Thumbs down, or feel free to speak. Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will approve item 1.3, Appeal Committee. That's all set. Next, we'll move to number 2, which is the Commissioner's Update. Rhonda.
In your package, you have the resignation letter, which is sadly accepted on behalf of Steve Longwell. We had the opportunity to talk through the process per bylaw for a nomination for his replacement, which he has submitted to both Luke and myself. And so we will have to, as a board, and I'll explain kind of the bylaw process. As a board today, you will accept the temporary replacement for Steve Longwell for the rest of this year, right? So I guess you would go 21 through 2022, but the Legislative Council will need to approve Travis Steiner formally at the April Legislative Council. So the board will approve him on the temporary basis until our Legislative Council meeting in April, and that's bylaw 1810-31. So Luke, if we can, and I'll just tell you, Steve went through the process. He put it out through his Legislative Council. District reps had the ability to have that discussion and nominate replacements for him. And he went through the full process within his district. There were 2 names that were submitted, and then they voted. And so Travis Steiner has been submitted to both, I said this earlier, Luke and myself, to present to you from their district to represent Steve Longwell for the rest of his term through April. And then it'll be a formal vote, which will be part of our Legislative Council agenda for the Legislative Council to approve him as one of our new board members. And he'll finish his term in 2023. So we'll just need a motion and to accept Travis Steiner beginning with the October meeting.
So moved.
Wendy Dunaway makes the motion.
Second, Wendy Potter.
Thank you, Wendy. Any further comment? All those in favor of approving Travis Steiner in place of Steve Longwell until that vote by the Legislative Council? All those in favor, thumbs up. Anyone opposed? Thumbs down, or feel free to speak. Don't see anyone. Based on that, we will approve Travis Steiner for his position on the board. Next item, Rhonda. You.
Just a list of our upcoming board meetings. Someone asked for kind of that in a hard copy in month order. So we put that in your packet. Kathy and I will have you the preliminary agenda following this meeting for you to look at for any additions, corrections. Caleb sent a couple other, he wants to talk about the official shortage as well as how we're doing the league change timeline. So we've added that to the preliminary agenda. But if you have anything that you would like to add, Luke is the one who approves any new additions once we send out the agenda. So feel free to email Luke or myself, and he can approve additional items once the prelim goes out today. So that's it. We don't need to vote on these, just a FYI on what the meetings are. And then just December 15th meeting will be very short. By then the handbook committee will have met, and we would have thumbs up or down on bylaws that may come forward through the legislative council. And so December 15th will be just giving the board an update on the potential for you guys to give your approval, because your name is actually on the bylaws that would move forward, so that you can give approval, so that Kathy and I can get the packet out to the legislative council and to the membership before the roundtable. So December 15th is a virtual meeting, but it will be very short, and it'll just be a review of bylaws and then a few action items if we need to do that.
Thank you, Rhonda. Next one is item 2.3, audit timeline.
Right. So with the transition from Sarah to Charlie, normally at the October meeting, we are finalizing. That's the second reading of the audit. Usually we do the first reading at the retreat. So just wanted to remind you that we will do the first reading in October, and our audit representative will be there to walk through what that timeline will look like for October, and then November, with potentially a finalized vote in December. So I know that someone had questions last retreat about what the timeline would look like, and we didn't have Charlie technically on board. And so now that we do, we've met with our auditors to lay out what that would look like. And we are behind a little bit, but we feel once we get, I mean, after the pandemic last year, I don't know if we ever had a set timeline last year, but Charlie's been working directly with our auditor. So we should have you at least a first reading at the October meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rhonda. Next, we'll move on to number 3, RPI survey results. I just wanted to take you through those just real quickly. I believe they're posted on the CHSA website. They have been shared with the committee that I have. And so I'll just run through kind of what we looked at, or what the results of that survey were. This will come up again on our October 13th meeting. We're going to ask the board to probably make some decisions about what we do moving forward with our tournament capture, as well as our seeding, and looking at that in terms of where we want to go and what direction the board wants to move. So the first question that was asked on that survey was, were schools in favor of a universal tournament capture criteria? 83% of schools said yes, they were in favor. 17% said no. So overwhelmingly, schools are in favor of continuing to use some kind of universal tournament capture criteria. Currently, that criteria that we use is RPI across all of our sports. The second question we asked them is what system should be used? If you said yes, and 83% did, then what system should be used? 66% of schools who answered that question said RPI and a max preps combination. So looking at that, probably a 50% RPI, 50% max preps was the most popular answer. Followed by 16% said max preps, 14% said other, and 6% said RPI. So our current system was voted the least popular in this survey. Only 6% said they were in favor of continuing with RPI. So interesting data, and good stuff to know for the committee moving forward, and also for the board. Now, the third question was what would be their preference for some kind of seeding criteria? 15% said continue what we're currently doing, which is allowing our sport committees to decide between really max preps, RPI, Packard, and the coaches poll, using those 4 criteria in some combination. 33% of schools said use tournament capture to determine seeding. So in other words, if you're going to use max preps to capture your tournaments, then also use max preps to seed those tournaments. So whatever you use to capture the tournament should be the criteria that you use to seed. That was 33% of schools. An additional 33% said limit seating to 3 criteria: Max Preps, RPI, and Packard. And the real catch to that question was do not use the coaches poll. That came up repeatedly in the comments that we saw, was that overwhelmingly schools did not feel that the coaches poll was something that should continue. We did see a trend in a lot of the comments, though, that there should be some kind of human element. It was hard to determine sometimes what exactly that meant, but some actually alluded to going back to maybe some kind of seating committees to some degree, which is always interesting to me because that's where we were years ago and everybody hated it and wanted to get away from the human element. So you see this kind of cyclical, like pendulum that just kind of goes up and down and reverses. And I think it's the things that we've talked about before with whether you're talking tournament capture or seating, you're never really going to make everybody happy. There's going to be a multitude of opinions, and it's going to be very diverse throughout the state. However, if we can figure out something that works best for the majority of schools at this time, I think that's all we can do. The last one under that preference for seating was like I alluded to earlier, there were 13% that said allow schools to allow seating committees to use whatever criteria they deem appropriate. Finally, the fourth question was, should auto qualifiers be limited to league champions only? 64% of schools said yes, 36% said no. So that goes back to some discussions that we've had about who should be allowed in the tournaments, who should get those automatic qualifying spots, how many should there be, should those just be league champions, or should we add different criteria or have additional automatic qualifiers? 64% said it should just be league champions only. So that was really the results. We didn't, we kept the survey fairly minimal in terms of its scope. The committee is going to meet again on the 28th, September 28th. We're going to try and make a final recommendation using the data and just some input that we've received from some of our leagues and people that we've talked to come up with a final recommendation for the board for that meeting in October. And then, like I said, the board will have to make some decisions about what we're going to do moving forward. Any questions, comments, or concerns with RPI and tournament seating and tournament selection? Okay. Anything else, Rhonda, you have? Okay, I think it was a pretty short meeting by design today, one that we needed to schedule just to get some things approved. Our October meeting, just for new board members, will be a little bit more involved. I know everybody's busy, so we tried to really limit this one down too, because I know everybody's got a lot of things going on. Homecoming, as you can tell, it's a tropical day here at Steamboat Springs High School. This isn't my normal Aloha shirt, but I do want to spread the Aloha spirit to everyone on the board. So there you go. Anything else for the greater good before we adjourn?
I have one thing. Sorry. Are you okay if I speak here, Luke?
Yeah, go ahead.
And maybe this is a question for Alex, and maybe this has to do with where I'm at, my location in Highlands Beach. But the letter that we got, Rhonda, in regards to what took place at Valor with the homosexual coach and everything like that, is, Alex, I guess my question is, since we've already been open last year to a discrimination lawsuit that we lost, are we open in any way in regards to that discriminatory act?
We have not received any, negative, any lawyer communication. The choice by Valor, they're depending on their religious status. as I understand it. And that's really not our, we don't have any ability to say yes or no about that. So if it's defended, it would be defended by Valor. It's actually not our call.
So the letter that you sent, if I'm understanding it correctly, because a lot of people have been asking me about it around here, stated that if he takes his case specifically to like the state courts or something like that and wins, then it would be considered a discriminatory act. Then we would have to make a decision.
Really, it's Valor's decision. In my opinion, but yeah. So if for some reason somebody said it was a discriminatory, a court or a Department of Justice or somebody like that said it was a discriminatory decision, then we would obviously respect that call.
And then we would have to make a decision based upon that, correct?
Yeah, we would.
If it was proven that it was.
I don't think we do what ifs around this. I'm just going to say I understand the conversation and the questions, but I think Alex just said it. We haven't received anything, and having a conversation around what ifs around something so sensitive and polarizing at this time, I think we just need to wait and see if something moves forward. Alex, I mean, you and I talked about this, and you absolutely helped us draft the media response. And I think that we are in a place right now that if this were come to fruition, as Jim is saying, then we would be prepared to respond legally how the association, but there's no really what ifs at this point because we're really not involved in any of it. And we're not being asked to be involved in any of it except by an outside letter. You would have thought we would be more infiltrated, right? If people felt like this was something that CHSAA needed to respond to. So I just want to be very mindful about the conversation around what we would or would not do because we have already put out a media response of where we're at.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that we were protected based upon what took place last year. I mean, that was my worry in it. So
there's a couple of situations brewing right now at the local level for our schools that are making the media circuit. And per Alex's leadership and guidance, we need to make sure for us as an association that we allow our schools to kind of set the tone of the investigative parts of all of those things. And then if we're asked to come into those situations or that we're forced to come into those situations, even around lots of other health decisions that are happening right now, just try not to stay in that. And I appreciate that, Jim, because we do need to be protected, right? And just making sure that we're just not being pulled into things that aren't CHSAA's, in CHSAA's wheelhouse at this point, if nobody's pulling us into those places. So
that was why I asked that question. I just wanted to make sure that we were protected and we were doing things the right way. So thank you, Alex, for communicating it.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. And good question. I got the floor here. I just want y'all to know that we have now completed the resolution of the Harris case just this week. The last piece remaining is that we'll be publishing a negotiated joint statement when we don't take here ASAP, I think. That's the last piece of that puzzle, and it'll be nice to have that in the rearview mirror.
Hey, Rhonda, one other quick question. Are we going to get just a brief little summary or a couple talking points to send out to our league presidents about today's meeting?
Easily. I can put those together here in about 10 minutes after we're done with the meeting and get them out to you guys along with the agenda for the October meeting. Perfect. So if you give Kathy and I about it looks like 3:36, so I'd say by 4:15 we can have you just some brief paragraphs on the action items, the updates, and then send you the agenda board or the board agenda, preliminary agenda for October. And I really do want your feedback. If you see any mistakes, if we need to add anything, please email Luke and I so that the agenda is the way that you need it to be for the October meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, good point, Nick. Thanks for reminding us. Keep continuing to make sure that you're communicating with your districts and keeping people in the loop as much as you can. So that'll help. Thanks for that reminder too, Nick.
Okay. Will we share the October agenda with our league presidents, like once it's finalized, or is that something that we would just follow up with them after the meeting?
What we promised you is that we would have the agenda posted at least 10 days, possibly 14 days prior to the meeting. And in my updates, I've said that we'll post those agendas and then we'll post the minutes. And I have to give kudos to my assistant right now. At least for the first month, she kept me on track and we got it done, but the minutes were posted in a timely fashion, more than we've done in the past. So that's her making sure that we're checking the boxes from all of the great things we talked about at the retreat.
All right, with that, anything else?
Luke, may I say something?
Sure.
Rashad has been working really hard with our counselor here in Lyman, and we have the Student Leadership Summit that's coming up October 29th. So I'm asking for all of you guys to sign your student leaders up. We have 18 kids that are presenting from Lyman, and it's going to be a really great program. So everybody sign their kids up.
Awesome. Anything else? Thank you guys again. I appreciate your time. I hope you guys are having a great fall. It's been awesome to see kids on the field participating and just active in school. Activities in general have been awesome. So keep up the good work. And I know I've had nothing but just fantastic feedback about getting back to normal and where we're at as an association and getting kids participating. So thanks to everybody. Keep up the great work. We are adjourned. Thank you.